Hello. The purpose of this video is to look at how a particular country, in our case Belarus, does on a range of different country rankings. The background is the country competitiveness dashboard, which looks at the micro level, macro level, and also the natural endowments that a country has. There's a number of global rankings that seek to give countries a score on some of these criteria. And in particular, we're going to look at the business environment, social infrastructure, and political institutions. Belarus's rankings have generally improved over recent years, and Belarus outperforms its peers on some key international rankings, such as the Human Development Index. However, it still doesn't have coverage across all major indices. The ones that we're going to look at in detail are the World Bank's Doing Business Index, the Global Competitiveness Index from the World Economic Forum, Fraser Institute's Economic Freedom Index, the Index of Economic Freedom published by Heritage, the Prosperity Index published by Legatum Institute, the Social Progress Index published by the Social Progress Imperative, and also the United Nations Human Development Index. So let's look at the Doing Business Index first. In the 2019 Doing Business report, Belarus received a score of 75.77 out of 100, which constituted a rank of 37th. This rank put Belarus consistently above its regional average, which is for Europe and Central Asia, although slightly behind Poland and other regional countries such as Lithuania and Georgia. In the 2017 Doing Business report, Belarus had risen from 115th in 2008 to 37th. This placed it the 7th best of the 25 European Central Asian countries, and their ranking of 37th put them ahead of Russia, who were 40th, and significantly ahead of Ukraine, who were 80th. Particular strengths in the 2016 report included registering property and starting business, and some weaknesses included getting credit, getting electricity, and resolving insolvency. In terms of the Global Competitiveness Index, if we look at the 2016-17 report with this image here, we can see that Belarus are not included. This is also problematic because the Global Competitiveness Index is an input for the Economic Freedom Index. So when we look at the 2015 Economic Freedom Index, we see that Belarus also is not included. However, Belarus was added to the Economic Freedom Index for 2018, and it received a score of 6.23 out of 10 and a rank of 123rd. This put Belarus in the category of least free countries in the world. In terms of the Index of Economic Freedom, Belarus's position increased from 48.8 in 2018 to 58.6 in 2017. This was quite a large increase in their score. The category that Belarus received was mostly unfree, but this is a massive increase. The global rank actually rose from 157th in 2016 to just 104th in 2017. Particular successes that were pointed out included deregulation, trade freedom, and fiscal freedom. Some of the stated concerns were property rights, corruption, and ineffective judiciary. Now, it's important to dwell on the increase in the score that Belarus received over this period. In 2016, Belarus had repressed status, which is the lowest category on the Index of Economic Freedom. However, in that 2017 report, Belarus had risen and was now in the mostly unfree category. If we look at Belarus's rankings relative to the average, we can see that according to the world average, Belarus is now close to being considered moderately free and also is close to being consistent with that global average score. In the 2019 report, particular improvements occurred in property rights, regulatory efficiency was reasonably strong, and also fiscal health. There was a downturn in government integrity, judicial effectiveness, government spending, tax burden, and trade freedom. According to the Legatum Prosperity Index, in 2016, Belarus ranked 98th. They had particularly good scores in things like education and safety and security, but they lagged in terms of governance, personal freedom, and social capital. In the 2018 Legatum Prosperity Index, Belarus's rank had fallen to 89th. Again, we see a similar pattern with particular strengths in education and also in safety and security. If we look in more detail at the 2016 Legatum Prosperity Index and see how it compared to indices from previous years, we can see that Belarus performed particularly badly for governance and for personal freedom. In terms of the Social Progress Index, in 2017 Belarus's score was 67.8 and they had a rank of 65th. Now the Social Progress Index looks at three different dimensions. It looks at basic human needs, it looks at the foundations of well-being, and it also looks at opportunity. These are split into further categories. Belarus did particularly worse in terms of relative to its GDP for the scores of personal rights and also for health and wellness. But Belarus did particularly better than its GDP implies for access to advanced education. In the 2019 Social Progress Index, Belarus's score had increased to 73.73 and its ranking had fallen from 65th to 46th. In terms of the Human Development Index, Belarus's score in 2016 was 0.796, which put it behind Chile but ahead of China. In fact, it was very close to being in the top 25% of all countries. Its ranking was lower than Russia and Romania, but its ranking was higher than Bulgaria, Serbia, and the Ukraine. In the 2018 Human Development Index, the score was 0.8 and the rank was 53rd. In terms of the Multidimensional Poverty Index, this is one particular component of the Human Development Index. It's the percentage of the population that is multidimensionally poor, adjusted by the intensity of the deprivations. Rather than only count income, it also measures education, health, and living standards. Belarus's score of 0.001 is the lowest of all countries surveyed. However, this ranking hasn't been updated since 2005, and therefore we should take it with a pinch of salt. I've also looked at the Satisfaction with Life Index. This was published in 2006 and is an attempt to measure happiness. In 2006, Belarus ranked 170th out of 178 countries with a score of 133. This placed them level with Turkmenistan, but above Armenia, Ukraine, and Moldova. So just to summarise these rankings, the World Bank's Doing Business report puts Belarus 37th, which is up from 50th in 2016. Belarus consistently scores above their regional average and have had big gains in recent years. Registering property in particular is seen to be extremely easy. Belarus remains excluded from the Global Competitiveness Index, but it was covered for the first time in the Economic Freedom Index in 2018 with a rank of 123rd. Belarus made a very large leap forwards in the Index of Economic Freedom between 2016 and 2018, from 157th to 108th, and are now close to being moderately unfree. They've had success in deregulation, trade freedom and fiscal freedom, although there's concerns for property rights, corruption and judiciary. The Legatum Institute's Prosperity Index saw Belarus rise from 98th in 2016 to 89th in 2018, and they perform well for education and safety and security, although they perform badly for governance and personal freedom. Belarus's ranking on the Social Progress Index increased from 65th in 2018 to 46th in 2018. This was a big improvement in 2018 and demonstrates that Belarus overperforms for access to education and underperforms for health and wellness and for personal rights. Belarus's position in the United Nations Human Development Index is 53rd in 2018, which is close to the top 25% for all countries. As you can see, Belarus has had some improvements in recent years, but there's also some still way to go in terms of coverage areas.